All right, we're back. And now I'm going to do part 2. I'm going to try to get this done before the battery runs out. But what we're going to do with part 2 is we're going to show you how to use these 2 centrifuges. So we've got 2 centrifuges. This one is the Beckman. If you look there, it's the Beckman. And this one is the Sorval. I'm looking for the Sorval. It says it right there. Okay? The power switches are in 2 different places, and I'm going to show you how to use the Beckman first. Beckman, the power switch is over here. You see that right now we don't have the overtemp light on, so we should be ready to go. This is where you set the speed. We want to set the speed to 3,000, and you set the time to 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Leave the brake at about 9, and everything else, leave it as it is. To open up the Beckman, you use this little latch right here. You pull it, and then this should open right up like that. Now inside the Beckman you have the rotor. This is the rotor with the lid loose, and you see it has places for you to put your centrifuge bottles in. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's the 2 centrifuge bottles, and they will be full of stuff, but not quite full, right? 2/3 full, that's what we always say. They go in across from each other. Do try to go ahead, make sure that the balanced pairs across from each other are balanced. It's also best to have all 6 of them full if possible. So then the lid goes on when you have all 6 of yours in. And the thing to notice about it is it has 2 different screws, and it tells you how they both go on. Usually to turn these screws, what you have to do is you sort of turn one and then turn the other. You aren't always able to completely turn them both. So I turned that one all the way down. I put this one on and turned that one on. And you see that they're, for a safety mechanism, they actually go against each other. Now notice I'm doing this with one hand, and my hand is not very strong. You don't really have to make it too tight. You just have to make it hand tight so that they're nice and screwed in and it's nice and even. If the centrifuge does not fit your bottles, come get me. But the other thing to notice is with the centrifuge, notice that this is nice and clean. There's not a bunch of spilled media around the edges. If there is a bunch of spilled media around the edges, take paper towels and sop it up and throw it away. That means that somebody overfilled, and we need to make sure that that media doesn't start growing stuff in it. Basically, when that's all ready, what you do is you close the lid, make sure that that latches nice and tight, and then right here you have the speed and time set, and you start to press the start button. You shouldn't press the stop button unless there's some sort of emergency, like it's making a weird noise. It sounds like a washing machine and it moves like a washing machine, and so that's pretty much what you should observe. It's probably okay if you've taken care to balance it. We're not running them too fast, and you should be okay. There's only a few other things to keep in mind for the Sorval. First of all, the Sorval has the on-off switch right here. You see it's already on. And also right here you see it's top loading. You should never push that handle too hard. You see how easily it comes open. And inside we also have the big rotor in here, and you can see it has a slightly different on-off ratio. If you look at that, then you've got the on and off. And so I'm going to sort of unscrew this one and then unscrew this one. And I think this is the one that you have to sort of work both of them off carefully. Notice how the lid sits nice and snug. If it's wobbly, that means it's not quite on. And so you have the 6. Also check the wells inside to make sure that there's not a bunch of stuff inside those, like a spilled media in there either. But you see, this is nice and clean, and hopefully it will look like this when you're done with it. Even with the best of intentions, sometimes a little bit of media spills. It's fine if that happens, you just should clean it up. The other thing is, because these are refrigerated, the media can freeze. And so in that case, turn it off so that the rotor doesn't get too cold, and so it unfreezes. Then, you know, come back and clean it up. Please try to take care of it right away, because that is the biggest problem with using these. So I'm going to show you how to screw this one on. Screw the bottom one first, and screw this one on as well. They're both screwed on, and you see this is nice and snug, not much of a gap there. And so this will be nice and balanced if I put 6 tubes in it. The other thing is how to set this one up. Once you close it, there's a bunch of different choices. You have to choose the rotor. That's the only thing that's different for this one. And the rotor to choose is actually listed right here. It's SLC 1500. And so you see I've selected that. And then I'm going to change the time to be 15 minutes. And especially be careful that this is set to 3000. A lot of times if you change the rotor, it will default to be the maximum RPM. You don't want that. That would be a mess, and that would be way more than you need. So, but that's set to 3000 like it should. Temperature is set to 4, but by the way, the temperature doesn't really matter that much for us. It's okay if the temperature is still a little bit high when you start your run, because honestly, we are just spinning down protein, and it's not that sensitive. So then you press start, and then you sit back and wait 15 minutes. The door will be able to be opened when it completely stops, when the speed is down to 0 and the time is down to 0. Do not force this handle. If you force this handle too much, it will break. And so we want to keep that from happening. But notice how easily it opens if it's actually able to open. As with any of these things, I work with these a lot. Caitlin, Danny, Sue, we all work with these a lot. If you have any questions, this is kind of a big instrument, and it's kind of a big responsibility as well. But it's actually a good introduction to something that you do all the time in jobs like this. And so that's what you want to do. When you take your stuff out, by the way, you will have a pellet that's maybe, let me find the bottles. It's maybe about the size of a quarter or something like that. It's not too big. And so don't try to prejudge what your pellet looks like and things like that. Just basically collect it into a screw top Falcon tube, and then I'll just show you the very last place to take it. Take it around here, and you'll put it into the freezer here. And I am going to set up a rack for you, probably on this top shelf right here, for you to put your samples in. Here are some old pellets from previous. We actually put these in 15 mil tubes last time, but I say 50 mil tubes. It's all okay as long as you label it very clearly. We can still see from last year that this is a pellet of 1C. When your stuff is frozen, then you're done. Please clean up thoroughly and enjoy the rest of your time where you don't have to come into lab. The week of February 7th, 5th through 7th and things like that. I believe that's the week when you're going to start up again. Look at the schedule to be sure. All right, and come get me if you have any questions in the meantime. I'll see you around as you work in the lab, and good luck making protein. I look forward to what we're going to find when we actually purify these proteins later on. All right.